All right. Well, we also now have three speakers for to round out this event today. Edison McDonald from the ARC of Nebraska, Janie York, and Cheryl Montgomery. I don't think Janie's on yet. I'm still going to try and email her and get her into the meeting, but I see Edison is here. So I just wanted to introduce Edison, and I'll hand the microphone over to him. Thank you, Edison.
Okay, awesome. Can everybody hear me? Yep. Okay, great. So yeah, as Brad said, my name is Edison McDonald. I'm the Executive Director for the ARC of Nebraska. We advocate for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities with chapters all over the state. Like I see Sherry Stansberry with the ARC of Buffalo County on here. And today I have the privilege to talk with y'all a little bit about disability employment issues. But before that, I wanted to take a moment of personal privilege and say thank you to everyone who's been going and calling their senator to oppose LB 147, the restraint bill. We were able to hold it off another day. It may come back, but if you've been wondering where I've been the last 2 days, I've been busy with that. But I was really happy that we got that stalled up. Next, I wanted to talk about kind of my journey into the disability community and into this role. Is a little bit different than some other people's. For me, you know, I'd been focused on healthcare issues and had kind of gotten into mental health. But one of the big moments that really directed me towards this role is I had my own private consulting company, had a whole bunch of employees, but the best one was a young lady who had a disability that many of you probably know, my friend Lynn Redding, and she did amazing work. She was there early, she stayed late, she was dedicated, always happy and focused in. If anything, I had to tell her to stop working so hard. And so then one day I went to Lynn and said, Lynn, I want to give you a promotion. And she said, no. I was like, wait, I don't think you understood me. Let me clarify. I want to give you more money and a higher level of responsibility because you've done such amazing work. Well, what she told me, there was a huge surprise for me, was that ultimately she wasn't able to go and accept that without losing the benefits that helped to keep her alive. And so that was just shocking because it wasn't that much money, but that little bit made a huge difference for her and her life. And it prevented
Can I say something?
Yeah, I'll take questions later on at the end. And so that was a huge step, you know, and just so frustrating. So as I came into the ARC, one of the big pieces that I've worked on is making sure that we have legislation that ensures that we protect people who want to be able to work and that we enable people with disabilities to be able to have that opportunity. So we worked on a bill last 2 years ago, and then ended up with an evolved version now sponsored by Senator Crawford, that is LB 323. And basically, what LB 323 does is try to go and help figure out how we can fix that issue. So it allows individuals who earn up to 2.5 times the federal poverty rate, or $31,225 for a family of one, without losing their Medicaid. They get assessed a small premium for those at the top tier of earnings. And, you know, we think that's completely fair. People with disabilities are happy to pay in, but they just want to make sure that they do have that choice to work and that it is fair. You know, the reason why this is so important is because ultimately in Nebraska, as Brad was talking about, that unemployment rate is huge. Our employment rate currently is only 51.8%. for people with disabilities, whereas for people with disabilities or without disabilities, it's 86.4%. The percentage of people working with disabilities working full-time, full year in Nebraska is 37%. The percentage of people without disabilities working full-time, full year is 68.6%. And, you know, that idea that basically individuals with disabilities are forced into poverty because they need to be able to stay alive. They are valued members of the community who want to work, who want to contribute, who want to, you know, earn their own money for their own independence and their own needs. And, you know, I think that that's an arcane barrier. So LB 323 is really exciting. I know the ARC and other organizations have been working on this for a long time, and we are so close to passing it. Right now it's sitting on what's called final reading. So it should just hopefully be a technical vote, and we're hoping that it's still gonna make it on the schedule. We're not sure, but if that's something you wanna see, you can definitely give Senator Scheer, who's the Speaker of the Legislature, a call and just remind him that that's something you really want to see up there. So with that, I guess the other thing that I really want to say is that if you are a person with a disability who's interested in employment, you have a lot of protections and you have a lot of options and tools that we can help you figure out how to navigate to make sure that you're able to continue working. You know, I think some of the biggest things that we see a lot of barriers such as fear, concern about safety risks, lack of knowledge about whatever condition the individual might have, an expectation of greater cost, a lack of necessary accommodations, especially if it's an invisible disability and not disclosed, potential resentment from managers or coworkers, and lowered expectations for a person with a disability. And you know,
Then we have a couple of questions, if you will.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Janet Tibbs would like to know, what about dual people? They can only save $2,000 in their checking or savings account.
Yeah.
I think Sarah had some response to that. Let's see. Oh, she said that possibly they could put the earnings in an ABLE account for careful planning.
Yep.
Would you speak to that asset level?
Yeah, no. So ABLE accounts are definitely tremendously valuable tools within the journey towards employment and ensuring that you're able to keep those benefits. And basically, for most folks with a disability, two key tools to look at in that regard in terms of your total assets are going to be special needs trusts and ABLE accounts. And we want to make sure that we're dealing with both the income side, so the salary side, and the asset side. And I know the ARC and a lot of other folks here worked really hard to make sure that we were able to pass those ABLE accounts. So that helps make sure that you can go and have a place to put those assets. Although ABLE accounts, you know, do have limited and targeted uses in terms of how that money can be used. And there are some restrictions, but I think it's generally pretty flexible. The biggest concern, I think, with folks there has been that there's been some fear that that money would be lost if the individual died in what's called a Medicaid clawback. However, hopefully Senator Merman's bill, LB 705, works to eliminate that clawback and is currently on track to pass and should probably be coming up also in the next few days of the legislative session here.
Edison, Towden wants you to know that she's working with vocational rehabilitation and getting some employment right now.
Awesome, great. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And if you need to go and figure out how to go and structure your you know, your salary in order to make sure that you're able to, you know, keep your benefits. I would definitely suggest checking out Easter Seals, Nebraska. Their case workers do an amazing job working with folks to make sure that they can figure out how to balance that. And there are a lot of ways to kind of shift that around to go fit what your need is. Any other questions?
I don't see any in the chat box, Edison.
Okay, awesome. Well, I just want to finish up by saying that, you know, I think there's a lot of, there are a lot of barriers, but also there are a lot of tools. And that's something that many of the organizations that are participating here would be happy to help you with. And if anyone does have some interest in either going and helping to ensure that they're able to work, or if they have interest in helping to move some of this legislative and administrative advocacy forward, then please talk to me, especially if we're able to pass LB 323. One of the big things that we'll be working a lot on, I know Brad and I think we talked about this like 3 years ago with Rocky Thompson, the director of Medicaid. And I went and said, okay, Rocky, if you let this through, we will go out, we will help get the word out, you know, once those income thresholds are sensible. And a lot of folks are gonna have that opportunity to all of a sudden be employed or be employed for more hours. And I think that that is just so important. So with that, Brad, I'll hand things back to you.
Great. Thank you, Edison. Good information and good tips. We have a second speaker for you this afternoon. Janie York from Here Now Solutions would like to talk about the importance of employment and her experience and her story. Janie?
Thank you, Brad. So, first of all, thank you for letting me come today. I really appreciate it. I have Meniere's disease, which is a complication of the inner ear that causes extreme dizziness and ultimately deafness. So through Meniere's, which started in 1992, I lost all the hearing in my left ear and most of it in my right. And at that point, I had no idea what I was going to do with myself. So I needed hearing aids badly, but couldn't afford them. So my audiologist very kindly sent me to vocational rehab. And I have to say that they have changed my life. So through vocational rehab, I was able to get not one, but over time, 2 pairs of hearing aids to keep me working. And for me, a lot of my identity comes from my work. As an adult, my life mission has been to make both a difference and a living. The difference part is hard, the living part not so much. And by having my hearing aids, I'm able to continue working. I'm able to continue being a part of the community and helping people that need help. So with those hearing aids, I was able to continue working, but as things changed, I needed help eventually finding a different job. And there was Voc Rehab again, helping me to find a different job. And once I was securely into that job, I was able to use the ADA requirements and regulations to help me into an office that I could actually work in. I was working in a nursing home as a quality assurance coordinator in an extremely noisy 3-person office and couldn't hear anything. So when an individual office came up for grabs, I asked my supervisor if I could have it. And luckily she was very aware of things and immediately let me have it, which helped me do my job better. So I continued at that job. And while I was at that one and the one prior, I was helping my residents who were hard of hearing and helping them clean their hearing aids, learn how to use them and so forth. And I saw that, you know, this really is a service that should be out into the world. So I decided I wanted to start my own business, but I really didn't have the resources, the knowledge base to know just exactly what needed to be done. From working with my caseworker at vocational rehab, I knew they had a self-employment track. So once again, I go back to vocational rehab, and with their help, I was able to get my license as a hearing instrument specialist, and they very carefully and methodically helped me lay all the foundations needed to begin my business. It took about a year, so it's not a big hurry up project. But over the course of that year, we laid out everything that needed to be done. They helped me gather up the supplies that I needed through some funding that they had available. And because of that, I opened my own business, Here Now Mobile Hearing Solutions, on August 1st, 2017. So I'm going on 3 years of business here very soon, primarily because of the help I got from vocational rehab. So because of that, I am a business owner, a taxpayer. Once I can get back into my nursing homes and build business again, because they're all closed pretty much, I'll be able to hire someone and give someone else a position helping me in my facilities. So I just can't express enough how important these support networks are for individuals with disabilities, because without all of this help, I would be on perpetual lockdown. We've all been on lockdown for quite some time now, and we know it's not much fun. But often individuals with disabilities really don't have the means to be in the community, to go out and be with people and be a part of the world, which causes isolation and depression and a host of other problems that could be mitigated if only they had the assistance they needed to be out into the world. And that's pretty much my story. It's not a very long one, but it all comes back to the help that I've gotten from vocational rehab. Are there any questions?
Jenny, this is Mary. I am looking in the chat box. We have a problem because the captioner had to drop off when we close up and start over.
Dear.
And so Eve Blau says this is a very powerful story that she heard.
Thank you.
And from Hannah Mercer, she said she did not catch when you got your disease. When did you get?
It was in 1992 on Mother's Day, on my way to see my mom for Mother's Day. It had been Meniere's disease, for whatever reason, is very much connected to stress. During over about a 15-month period, I had lost my dad, my grandfather, and a best friend. My marriage was falling apart and my 2 teenagers were going absolutely crazy. So my stress level was just unbelievable. And somehow it triggered this Meniere's. And I had severe Meniere's attacks for about a year. And then I found Dr. Britt Dettinger, who's a dizziness disorder expert, and he helped me find a way to control it. I really started working on how to manage my stress, but by then my hearing was gone. So they were the ones who sent me to voc rehab for that first pair of hearing aids.
Good news, the captioner is back on for those of you. She's coming on.
Oh, did somebody assign her to?
I will. Where is she? Okay. If I can. I think you need to, Kathy.
Okay, and I get it. There, I found her. Okay.
As we're going, we've got a person who, can someone get help from voc rehab if they have not been awarded SSDI but has an ADA recognized disability?
Oh, I've never been on disability. I've never been on Medicaid. I've never had any of those designations, but I just went in basically with my hearing test and a recommendation from my audiologist. And they were able to bring me into their system just that way. And that first pair of hearing aids, they paid for everything. My second pair, since I had been working, I was able to contribute some. And I just saw something flash across the screen about assistive technology. And that group was able to help me as well, because I couldn't hear that. Thanks to Julie Shively for sending me there. She was a huge part of my journey through VR. So she sent me to assistive technology, and they helped me get what I needed done to be able to access the map feature on my phone, so I wouldn't have to always be printing out directions and trying to read while I drive.
Towden would like you to know that she became deaf in 1992 when she first started having seizures as a baby. She also wanted to let you know she has the same problems trying to get hearing aids at some point or another too. And your story is powerful from Sarah. Several people, as you know, have said AT to the rescue. Let's see. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Meaning assistive technology helps people with disabilities overcome barriers in the workplace or barriers to enter the workforce. Have those things been helpful to you on top of anything else?
Well, that assistive technology, it was while I was working on the self-employment that I went for my regular meeting with Julie in Grand Island. And toward the end of our meeting, I pulled out the directions that I needed to go to my next appointment. And she said, "You don't have navigation on your phone?" I said, "Well, yes, I do, but I can't hear it." So she helped me to get in touch with assistive technology. And it was very simple. They set me up with a phone holder for my telephone in my car and a speaker that was connected to it. It was so simple, but it was a game changer for me.
Thank you very much. That seems to be all the comments in the chat box.
All right.
Thanks,
Well,
Janie.
thank you. And I'm happy to put my email into the comments if anybody has any further questions or needs any help.
Well, thank you, Janie. And I think one of the things I kind of pulled from that story was that, and also the other stories that we've talked about today or we've heard about today, is that you got to ask a lot of questions and you got to talk to a lot of people, because you never know who might know somebody who might have access to technology that can help you, who might have connections to an open job. So I think, one of the lessons I think to take away is that don't be discouraged. Ask lots of questions of a lot of different people and see what's out there and what things you can gather to help you get over those barriers that you will face entering into the workforce or being in the workforce. And then
And don't be afraid to ask for support, emotional support, because that's really hard to ask for, but it's invaluable.
I would concur. The last speaker we have for you today is Cheryl Montgomery from North Star Services. Cheryl, you want to take it away?
Hello. So I am Cheryl from North Star Services. North Star Services, for those who don't know, is a service delivery agency within the intellectual developmental disability system in Nebraska. And not only do I work for North Star, I also am a officer in Nebraska APSE, which APSE is the only national organization dedicated specifically to promoting employment for people who experience a disability. And in both of the organizations, the basic core belief is one we heard in the video is that anybody who wants to work can work. And it's just our job to figure out how to make that happen for people. And that's so important. I think Janie commented on that isolation. One of the very first things people ask each other when they meet is, what do you do? For a very long time, people experienced an intellectual or developmental disability were kind of relegated to supporting the institution in which they lived or working in a sheltered workshop, which didn't provide much opportunity for community interaction. The organization that I work for, about in 2005, decided that we did not like that model anymore. It wasn't working for people. People often made pennies on the dollar for the jobs that they were doing, or if they worked piece rate, they got even less than that. It was not unusual for people to have a whole month's paycheck that was like $2 or $3. And that didn't seem to be helping people build their social equity or be able to participate fully in the community in ways that they ought to be able. The process that we shifted away from that sheltered work to community employment. And the model that we use is called job match. And what a job match model looks like is you do some discovery with the people, the job seekers. So you find out, like, what are their skills, their gifts, their capacities, their interests, their passions, their conditions, and their preferences. And then you go look for jobs that match those skills, gifts, interests, conditions, and preferences. It works well then also for the employer, because with a good job match, the employee is going to be satisfied, they're going to stay on the job, the employer gets the employee that they're looking for, all of their needs are met. The ADA opens doors because it allows for reasonable accommodations. And that means that people with even more significant support needs can be welcomed into the workforce. And then it's our job to figure out what are those accommodations. We often help negotiate with an employer to understand what those accommodations might be, and often they're of no cost or very low cost to the employer. We also help get people out of the traditional jobs. I loved the video with the guy that was a zookeeper. We don't have anybody who's currently, we don't support anybody who's currently a zookeeper, but we have helped people find some jobs that are out of the traditional roles that people with disabilities often fill. We've had supported people to find jobs in offices as like receptionists or file clerks. We have had some success in helping people work in retail, and they don't want to just like stock the shelves. They want to be the cashier or the person who points people to the right part of the store. And one lady that we supported that is still one of my favorite stories is she really, really likes to shop. And one of the problems for people, and I know Brad alluded to this, people stay in poverty when they receive support services, especially if they're not earning minimum wage. And she liked to shop. She found out that one of the department stores close by had a good employee discount. She particularly likes things like purses and like jewelry and that sort of thing. So she got to work in that store, in that department, where she gets a pretty good discount. And then the store likes it because she wears the stuff she buys at the store. So she's got the earrings that she bought there. She's got the vest that she bought there. So she's kind of a walking advertisement. And she loves the job. One of the other things that I think that the ADA has been really helpful with is that it helped put people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in a visible, viable way into the national conversation about employment. Which prior to that, that was kind of an invisible thing. one of the other ways that we support people in employment is through entrepreneurship or owning or creating their own businesses, which works really well for people for whom a traditional work schedule or traditional employer-employee relationship might not be viable. Some of the businesses that we've supported people to create and maintain, and there are things I would never think of. There are two gentlemen who work together. One of them has a composting business, and he uses his compost to support his business partner's worm farm, and then they sell the worms to fishermen, people that fish. So they partner up, and they have some cute name for it, but I don't remember what the name is right now. There was a gentleman who roasted and ground coffee and sold it to the local grocery store, motel in his town. And I think there was like a cafe or something that sold it as well. There was a gentleman who ran his community's recycling business. And then we also support people who have things like their Avon representatives, or they have vending machines. Part of the problem, and I know that Janie alluded to this as well, is providing funding to provide that level of support. Most of the people we support are funded through the comprehensive or day waivers, and employment is not, let's just say, finding access to employment funding is not very easy to do, and it's pretty limited. So we're constantly trying to be creative. We're constantly advocating for that, because we want to make sure that the definitions of work include people being able to actually work in their home communities, to be able to develop all those relationships and social roles and identities and build their social capital. And for a lot of people we support, specifically those with more significant support needs, that reasonable accommodation means a job coach or somebody who works with them on the job, not doing the job for them, but guiding them through the day-to-day duties of their job, helping them maintain the social expectations of the job, and sometimes just being there to provide that sort of reassurance that the job, they're doing fine, that the job is working well for them. That's kind of what I have. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
There's one comment in the chat box, and that is about using caption call phones. I believe that was probably for the previous person.
Oh, okay.
If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Does North Star, what's area does North Star serve?
Our organization is in Northeast Nebraska. Currently, we have area programs. We have 9 area programs from Fremont to Columbus, West Point, South Sioux, Wayne, Norfolk, O'Neill, Bloomfield, and Valentine. I think I named them all.
And Janie says, if you contact the Nebraska Department for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, which would be, I believe, the commission, they can help with phones. Thanks. And several people are saying, thanks, Cheryl. Good job, Cheryl. This is great information. Kristen is just letting us know, Kristen Larson, that she's sorry she was late. She had another meeting that ran over, and she joined just in time to hear you, Cheryl, and calls you a pioneer in supportive employment.
One of the things I want people to think about is, and I heard it a long time ago, and it stuck with me ever since. You don't have to be able to talk to have a job. You don't have to be able to have full capability. You don't have to have great dexterity. You don't have to have all of your limbs working strong and mightily. You can have a job. We have supported people to work even if all they have is eye gaze communication. That's part of developing the reasonable accommodations around the person.
And Brad says that you, oh, where did I lose him? There are options to sheltered workshops also. Another person says they coached for years, job coaching, and it was rewarding, and it was wonderful to see people succeed. And then Brad also mentioned competitive integrated employment. I'm getting Kim on now.
By job coaches.
What was that?
Somebody asked if there were if they provide job coaches.
At North Star.
Yeah, I think so.
Cheryl, do they provide job coaches?
Yes, we do.
And what does a job coach do?
Whatever is needed to support the person on the job. So the job coach might just go in and help the person get started for the day. They might help the person keep their work organized. They might help the person only navigate like clocking in and clocking out. Or they might be with the person all day long, hopefully not side by side, but in the vicinity to help the person just navigate throughout their day. We have another role that's called the employment specialist.
Another question probably for any of the presenters, is flex time a reasonable accommodation?
I can say for the people we support, it can be.
Thank you. That's all that's in the chat box at this point.
Well, those are the planned speakers for this afternoon. I hope that this was entertaining and enlightening and informative for you. We all, again, wanted to stress the importance of the ADA in providing opportunities and access to people with disabilities to their community and access to employment, and to provide some supports and assistance where people with disabilities might need that in order to succeed in finding, landing, and completing, being successful in their work and in a competitive integrated employment setting. I will turn it over to Kathy for any final comments, and then I will wish you all a good afternoon.
Kathy, before you close out, there are several people saying this was a great group of presentations. Thank you to all the speakers. It's very enjoyable.
Thank you. A lot of people worked hard on getting this together. Actually, they've worked hard on getting the whole week together. I'm just kind of sitting back and letting it happen. But I do want to apologize again for us getting hacked. That was totally unacceptable.
Another comment was, thanks for the quick response to the hack. I don't think we were as fast as it could be.
No, we weren't, because I couldn't. It was like total shock. But okay, I appreciate you saying that.
Well, and I would also like to say how interesting it was that Cheryl liked that video
Yeah.
about the person who was working as a zookeeper.
Yeah, I know. Really. Anyway,
Maybe I should say I watched it from the link before.
okay.
That's good. That's good. I put the link for the actual video in the chat box before we closed.
And I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that all the videos, lots more, have been put on YouTube. And Kelly, are you still here? apparently not. So I'm gonna have to get the hold of her. Like I get that information for you. But I wanted to tell you that tomorrow our topic is going to be intersectionality. And we've got some more really good videos and some and we hope you'll join us.
Real quick, and my first hacker experience was one of the people's comments. Thanks to everyone.
Everybody have a good afternoon.
Janet wants to say something.
Hi, all. I just want to say I miss you. And good luck with everything you're doing. Sorry I interrupted. And you lost my video. I'm sorry not to intrude you like that. So I always stick up for people. I'm here to advocate whenever you need it.
Janet, everyone was having their videos off, so you didn't get turned off because you interrupted, and your interruption was not a problem.
Can you give us a transcript of the, like all the stuff in the chat boxes, like all the links and everything?
We're collecting it all, and I will be putting it.
Will you be getting an email at the end of the week, or how are you going to be doing that?
I'll do it at the end of the week once I get all the videos.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say, what happened to that? Why did you get hacked? And that was disgusting.
Yes.
Well,
and I think we're just gonna
turned in.
Yeah.
that happens. I don't know.
Well, they should be turned in and knocked off the internet.
Well, they won't be returning to ours as long as I can find it. Okay, everybody, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And
Bye.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.